welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today I'm going to be sharing some stenciling techniques with you. So we're going to make 5 cards, and to do that we're going to use this kit that comes with this month's Chloe's Creative Cards magazine. So I'll quickly show you the kit. It's really beautiful. So you get this nice embossing folder, you get this die set, you get this, which is obviously going to be the focus of our cards. I think it's a really beautiful stencil. Then you get this stamp set, which I really like. It's got loads of kind of really lovely florals and quite different as well, so you can make different styles of cards. Then you've got the insects, this really cute mushroom, sentiments, and this bit of honeycomb there. And then you've got a really nice paper pack as well. So you've got the cutter parts here, some florals and more cutter parts, and then we've got some really nice pattern papers. And so then we're back to here and we start again. So you've got 2 of each of those. So I'm going to start by using a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card blank. I'm going to position this on here like that. And then I've got this purple tape. You can use any temporary tape for this. And I want to mask it so that only the flowers are showing, because I want to do the flowers first. So I'm going to go in with my blending brushes and I'm going to add some of this Rubelite ink from Holtz around these flowers. And you'll notice I'm not doing the centres because I want to go over the centres in different colour. And then I'm going to use the middle one of these detail blending brushes from Holtz for the centres of the flowers. I use this type much more than this type, but this type is really good for these like little fiddly places that you want to get into. So they're really good to have around. And then I'm going to take off some of this tape, but I'm going to keep it to one side because I'm going to mask over the flowers now. And I can reuse some of this masking tape. So then this time I want all the green bits showing. So then I'm carefully covering over the flower bits and just leaving anything that should be green. And you can see that I'm using some quite small pieces of tape so that I can make sure that I'm doing it really accurately. So then I'm going to do the green bits. I'm going to start with a sweet leaf. I'm going to add that from the bottom. And then I'm going to add some minty mint above that. So then we've got that. So then I'm going to unpeel the bits that cover the butterflies. And the butterflies will be easier to do than some of the other parts because they're kind of set apart. So it's easier not to go on to other parts that you don't want to go on to. So I'm just going to cover the pieces that are directly next to them. And then I can go in with my stencil again. So this time I'm going to go in with some purples. So I've got soft lilac and deep iris. And I'm going to do a couple of the butterflies in each one. And this is where these kind of more detailed blending brushes come into their own because I'm not worried about it getting all the way down here. So then this is pretty and you could leave it like that, but I want to add some more details. And this is where having markers that coordinate with your colours of inks is really useful, because I'm going to add some details with my markers. So for my leaves, I've got the minty mint and the soft and the sweet leaf that we used originally, and then I've also got the just green, which is one shade darker, that we'll use as well. And I'm just going to add some details. So now you can see that there's a lot more to the leaves. Let's go on and do the same process with the flowers. So for this we've got the pink diamond, the pink alicious and the rubellite. So then I'm going to do the same with the butterflies. I'm using this deep iris colour to just make the bodies more pronounced. Then I've got the deep iris and the lavender fields. So then I'm going to add a few little details with a black fine liner pen. So like I'm just adding some little circles to add some detail to the centre of the flowers. And then you may have noticed that I've got a few little splodges from the stenciling around. So I'm going to hide those a little bit by just stamping some of these little diamonds in the lavender fields and just making those look a little bit more purposeful. So then I'm going to use this birthday wishes sentiment from the set, and I've just got a strip of black cardstock that's as wide as my card that I'm going to heat emboss it onto. So then I've got my opaque bright white super fine embossing powder from Wow. And then I'm just going to glue that onto the bottom of my card, which will really help to ground the card. So then on this next one, I've got a 5-inch circle that I've cut using some layering dies. And I'm going to use that with my fine liner pen to draw some butterflies onto the circle. So now that I've stenciled them, I'm going to add some details with my fine liner, like in the bodies, maybe a bit of kind of detailing on them. I'm going to carry on and add detail to all of them, and then I'm going to colour them. So then I've coloured this, and then I've also stamped and coloured this flower and 4 leaves from the stamp set. So then I've got 2 circles. This black one's nearly 3.5 inches and this one's 3.25 inches. And I'm just going to stamp this on your special day sentiment onto here. And I'm going to heat emboss that with black embossing powder. That's the Primary Ebony Superfine embossing powder. So I'm going to glue that onto this black circle. And then I want to make this into a card base. So this is a second 5-inch white circle. And I'm going to pop that in here at 1/2 inch. And I'm going to cut that piece off. Then I'm going to turn it round so that the flat bit's at the bottom. I'm going to line the flat bit up at 4 inches. And that will make sure that this score line at the top is parallel to the one at the bottom. So then I can just add some glue above my score line. And then I'll glue those 2 pieces together. So then I'll bring back in my sentiment circle and I'm going to pop that up on some foam pads. And then I'm going to add on my flower and these leaves. So I'm going to add on the flower with some more foam pads. And I'm going to pop that on there. And then I can glue on these leaves. And there's that finished card. Then for my next card, I want to ink blend the front of the card. So I've got Kitsch Flamingo, Spun Sugar, Shaded Lilac and Stormy Sky Distress Oxide inks. And I'm going to pop those on starting at the top. And those of you that have seen me do this before will know that I like to put on a layer that won't look overly great and then go over it with another set of colour once I've got all the colours down. So now I'm going in with my second layer, and I'm starting from the bottom this time and working back up. So then I'm going to pour a little bit of my embossing powder inker out, and then I'm going to just use a kind of smoothie tool just to pop some of that through the stencil. And then I'm going to pour over my white embossing powder. So now we've got this nice white print on it. So I just want to heat emboss a sentiment onto this strip of black cardstock. And I'm going to use this Happy Birthday. So then I'm going to add some foam pads behind that sentiment. And pop that across there. I'm just going to decorate them with a few of these black gems. So I'm just going to kind of put them in the centre of the flowers and then also down the bodies of the butterflies. And then I'm just going to add a bit of black fine liner pen to the antennae to finish off those antennae. So then there's that card finished. So for my next card, I've got a 6 by 6 inch piece of white cardstock, and I'm just taping the stencil over the top. And I want to do some embossed resist with this. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my Wow embossing ink, and I'm just going to dab that all through my stencil all the way across. So then I'm going to cover that with my Wow clear gloss embossing powder. And then there are a couple of areas that haven't come out quite as well as I would have liked. So I'm going to place this back over, and I'm going to use my Wow pen. I'm just going to go through some of those finer areas. Then I'm going to use Distress Oxide inks again. I'm going to use the same ones as before. I'm going to start with Stormy Sky at the top. Then I'm going to move on to the shaded Lilac. Then I'm going to go Spun Sugar. And then Kitsch Flamingo. And then I'm going to go back in with another coat of each colour just to make that really vibrant. So I'm going to rub over the heat embossing with a paper towel just to get off some of the excess ink and make that white from beneath the embossing powder really show through. So then what I'm going to do is take my square layering dies, and I'm going to cut this a few places like that with those squares, and then I'm also going to cut a bunch of black squares that is the one size up from each of these squares. So then I've got a 6-inch square piece of black cardstock, and I'm going to add that to the front of my card, and you can see here how those layers are going to work. So then I'm going to flip this over, and I'll take each of these layers in turn and add them to my card. So we're alternating the layers, a black one and then a coloured one. And it's nice because it's one image, but the black breaking it up kind of really adds some interest to it. So then I'm just going to heat emboss the happy birthday sentiment onto my black cardstock. And I'll heat emboss that with some white embossing powder. And then I'm just going to add one of the gems that we used previously onto the middle of this flower. And then I'm going to add some fine pads behind this sentiment. And then there's that card finished. So then for my final card, I've taken the biggest one of these arch dies, which are the Spellbinders Essential Arches. I've used one to cut a piece of Neonosolar White, and then that same one, the largest one, to cut into a card blank. So the way that I've done that is to line it up, where I've just very slightly overhung the cutting side here over that folded edge, just so that you still get that fold. And then we've got that one to layer on top. Then I've also cut this black arch frame using those two missing dies there. And you just layer the two up, tape them like that, and then run them through with your cardstock to create a frame rather than a solid arch. So I'm going to use this arch, and then I kind of want to create a background with the stencil for this card. So what I'm going to do is line up the stencil. I'm going to take that down. Then I'm just going to grab a blending brush and the soft lilac ink, and I'm going to go over the whole image with the soft lilac ink. And that is coming out, but it's a little paler than I really wanted. I want a pale look, but not quite that pale, so I'm going to try the Lavender Fields instead, just to give a little bit more definition. And actually, before I start doing that again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to tape this to my arch at the back of the stencil. So I want to emboss this in a second, so I want to keep it in the same place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss this in my die cutting machine. So let's remove this. You can see the embossing at the back actually. Sometimes that kind of texture doesn't show up as well on camera, so I hope you see in there. So now we've got that nice inked embossed panel. And then I'm going to grab the Have a Magical Day sentiment, and I'm going to heat emboss that on some black cardstock. So then I'm going to glue that panel onto the front of my card. Then I'm going to add on the frame. And I'm going to add my sentiment. I'm going to pop that up on some foam pads. And then I've got this mushroom that I stamped from the set and coloured and cut out. And I'm going to pop that up on some foam pads as well. And then there's our cute finished card. Then there are all 5 of today's finished cards. Let me know which is your favourite in the comments below. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video and that it gave you some ideas for using your own stencils. If If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I have a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below. And there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.